good evening, all. Ira Epstein, and here we are with your financial market wrap-up. And this wrap-up is for the evening, as we're now together on November 4th, 2025. We'll wake up in the morning, there'll be a new mayor in New York. We're going to see who gets Virginia, New Jersey. There's all kinds of elections going on. And very importantly, we're opening up for tomorrow the Supreme Court trial. Are whether or not did President Trump go too far with tariffs? Does he have that presidential authority? The courts have really gone with him on a lot of what he's done. The question is, what happens if he loses? How does he put on tariffs if he wants to? Does he have other rules he can use rather than the way he did it? Or does he have to give back money? And how do you go about doing that? And what does that mean for the stock market as a whole? One part of people will say, okay, hey, if he gives back money, we don't have that tariff inflation. The other part will be that means our budget's in worse case than it was before. I mean, I can go on and on. So the stock market today looked at those events, and I think it just finally came the way on the market, and that's why you're even down as much as you are tonight. People are scared. They're running out, and they're going, where's this thing going to stop? You were just $4,400 in gold. You're at $3,950 right now, so that just came down. Bitcoin was $128,000. And now you're back down to $100,000. So, I mean, if you can lose more than 28% and you're comfortable with it, great. But the average guy can't. Energy prices, I'm not enamored with them. You've heard me say it 100 times as to why I'm not. On the grain markets, now the question is, does China buy? How much do they buy? Will they keep their word on buying? I'm all worried about all that. And the reason, obviously, is the last time around, they didn't keep their word. So we will find out just what they do. But for the farmer, I think they'd much rather open market price where their grains get bought rather than running for the government for help. And I think that's very important. Now, we do have a lot of news tomorrow. You're going to get the Mortgage Bankers Association. Their update's going to come out at 6 a.m. ADP October private sales sector. Their net jobs data is going to be released at 7:15. S&P Global Group is going to release their final October service sector number, and the word is final, so it's going against an earlier number at 8:45. ISM Supply Management come out with their October index at 9, and you can see how the crude numbers came out today. We do get a set at 9:30 in the morning from the EIA to get a feel on what that's going to do. But the reality is, stock market did not pay attention in September or October, the normal time of weakness. Gold never did weaken. It just rallied that whole time from roughly 3,800 up to the 4,400 level, and it's giving back quite a bit of ground here. As you take a look at the S&P, the world isn't ending. You're now 1.5% for the week. This is a normal correction. It doesn't feel normal because we're not used to breaks in the market. When you look here, I thought earlier, drugged up and all that I was with my bad back, that we'd fill this gap, and we did fill the gap. So my work was correct on that. Now you're in a pattern that today changed the game. Today, in my opinion, moved the market now to lower highs, lower lows. You've broken the back of the uptrend. You've gone right into the 18-day average where you're fighting for support. If you can clear down here the 6,700 level, be careful. You can get a bit more run to the downside. Don't know what the reason would be, but I've given you some ideas as to what to look for. And so far, I'm not seeing the bids come in you normally would. When we look over here at the slow stochastic, it's turned itself down. So the 18-day average, the closest moving average, was the objective. It's hit it tonight. So it didn't hit it during the day on Tuesday. It waited for the Wednesday trade, and it hit it just now. The same identical thing is happening in the NASDAQ. So you've gotten down to support zones there. The same identical thing in the Dow is happening right now. And in the Russell, instead of the 18-day average, because it's been the weakest, you went to the lower Bollinger Band. So I have all the reasons in the world that these markets can decide to stop right where they're at and go into churning affairs. I'm not saying bullish affairs just yet. You're not getting that from me. When I look at the DAX, you're under the lower Bollinger Band, problems for that. In the bonds and notes, well, when you fall apart, you normally get a bid into the bonds and notes, and you're getting it into the 10-year and the 2-year, but you can't say it's very strong. It's bounces in a bear market, so far no more than that. The dollar's up in an area that I expect it to have problems. I understand what it's looking at and why, but you don't fight the first challenge of a 200-day average in a Bollinger Band. There'll be those of you out there that go, but Ira, you're over it. So what? You're in a zone where the market should have some problems. The euro is running the lower band. If it wants to really stretch it out, you could go back to the 200-day average at the 114 level. In the Aussie dollar, you've just let go from this one-time challenge of the Bollinger Band all the way back down in about 6-7 business days. Here, again, I screwed up. Again, my fault. This is where we ended up on Friday in Bitcoin. You're now down from there another $10,000 down in this area. Remember, you switched over from October to November, so the contract rolls and came right on down. So much further, I'll catch that right now and fix it. I apologize. When I look at the Brent, higher lows, but now lower highs are starting to set in. So the market's in one of these funny positions where it can't make up its mind what to do. You're getting the same thing now happening in the WTI crude. You're still in an uptrend in the heating oil, still with the bullish embedded reading. No sign yet where that's peaking, and the same has happened, but you've already hit the Bollinger Bands in the nat gas, so at any point here, I can see it arguing it with itself and trying to come back a little. But that's what you look at. Don't be surprised in the morning if you wake up and there's a bit of green on the screens and the markets wipe themselves out tonight as the stops got run and people do that. But the more important thing is these markets aren't ready to turn again super bullish. They need to consolidate in some manner, and that's where I think you're at. So if you want to keep up with, I think, with that and other parts, there's my icons up here. You give it a click, go to the research section of Ira Epstein. That's where you find all that. There's a wheel right over here. If you're on YouTube, you can do it that way. Either way you go, I'm Ira Epstein. I'll see you tomorrow. You have yourself a great evening. We'll see what the election's doing. Of course, I can't wait to hear the Supreme Court arguments and the questions the justices ask back of the attorneys. Take care.